Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Good evening. Obviously, I'm under the weather today, so you'll bear with me. I'm going to do my best. Not feeling that great. So welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the City Council for Monday, March the 11th. To my far right, we have the City Clerk, Jason Prévost. We have Councillor David Torgman, Councillor Mike Cohen, Councillor Ruth Kovac, myself, your Mayor, Mitchell Brownstein, Councillor Dita Burku, Councillor Stephen Erdely, Councillor Sidney Benizri, the City Manager, Tanya Abramovich, the Associate City Manager, Nadia DeFuria, and Co-City Manager, Jonathan Schechter. Before we start the meeting, I would like to first congratulate the Smart City Challenge team of the City of Côte Saint-Luc, who worked very hard at over the last many months at formulating a Smart City Challenge plan called the Village Initiative and submitting it this past week, I think it was March the 5th, submitting the challenge. So as many of you know, we won $250,000, and now that we've submitted our proposal, we're up for a $10 million prize, which will be announced on May 14th. So I'd like to thank Mark Shrieky, our technical director, Councillor David Torgman, Councillor Mitch Kajavsky, and a strong thank you to our city manager, Tanya Abramovich, who worked around the clock on this project, and Councillor Dita Burku, who was the lead on this project and took it to heart and worked day and night right up until the deadline to put in a 72-page proposal, as well as a beautiful video. I was privileged to be part of the team and participated in the ways that I could, got to speak at different conferences, enjoyed helping make this video that we're going to show in a minute. I think it really explains well what our challenge is about, and I believe that if we win the $10 million, we certainly will change the way isolated seniors live in our community and across Canada through the use of technology. So without further ado, if you can show that video, I think everybody would appreciate it, and then we'll start the meeting. You know, my grandfather, he always told me that he lived in a small village. And in that small village, his job was to take the hot cooked meal that his mom made and bring it to his grandfather. They were taken care of by their children and by their grandchildren. They lived in 3 generational homes. That's something that we've lost. And the Smart City Challenge basically is to bring that back through technology.
When we speak to the residents about this project, they are really, really excited. We did a public consultation and we asked them to draw their care map. Basically, you draw yourself in the middle and you put who is in your entourage who will come and help you if there's something wrong, who will know if something happens to you. And some of them had, grandkids, kids, friends, all sorts of people. And then there's one in particular that I remember. It was a little stick figure with a sad face and a big tear. And it said nobody. And yet this person still had enough hope and trust to come to a public consultation because they believe that something could change for them. And this is why we're doing this.
Côte Saint-Luc is the greatest place in the world to live, I believe.
There's a personal touch, there's a community touch.
We have over 500 volunteers that help in so many of our different programs, which makes our city unique and great. In Côte Saint-Luc, 30% of the population are seniors.
Where the rest of Canada is going, we have been for decades.
We are now the living lab for the future.
So what we do here in Côte Saint-Luc will help all cities throughout the country.
The city's in the business of delivering service. We do it well, but it's not enough.
The society that we live in is not designed for seniors.
And that became our challenge.
We will implement a connected framework that will enable seniors to live more independently in their homes and communities, such as motion sensors, a fall detection device, our connected mobile app, and more. Say you live alone, you may only have limited resources for help. The Connected Village allows you to access resources when you need them. Imagine getting out of bed at night and having the lights turn on automatically, reducing your risk of injury. What if you're walking outside and happen to fall? A simple wearable could monitor the situation and trigger an alert to city services, or even better, to someone who might be physically closest to you in the moment who can respond quickly. Or perhaps you left the stove on. A level of response could be anything from a device that automatically shuts it off to a call to check in on the situation, making sure that you and the residents around you are safe and sound. The Connected Village could also help you with your social engagement. You could receive reminders of upcoming activities at the library or local theater, and even arrange for a lift. All of this could be made part of your personalized plan in the Connected Village.
There's opportunities here to save people who are healthy, who just have one moment of inattention.
On peut imaginer la technologie un peu comme un bon voisin, c'est-à-dire quelqu'un qui est là en soutien, sans être envahissant.
And connect our seniors to the social services, to the medical services.
Seniors want data from technology to be used appropriately and according to their wishes.
Parce que la Ville a une mission sociale qui est de soutenir ses aînés. Elle a une grande crédibilité auprès de la population, donc ça nous permet de mettre en place des systèmes innovants tout en ayant la confiance aussi du public.
With the Smart City project, we will be able to keep patients at home, keep them in a healthy, secure environment, keep them out of the hospital if they don't need to be here.
We have to adapt to those seniors who want to have that confidence that they can stay in their homes and still feel comfortable and safe.
I preferred living at home. I tried out one of the residences. I didn't love it, so I came back home.
The future's technology. I would like to see that. I'm counting the days.
Today, we can start to do something to make everybody's life better.
I think anything you can help, any little thing, is so appreciated.
There are situations where people might not need these solutions today, but they will need them tomorrow.
I think the city of Côte Saint-Luc's and our vision of moving care to wherever the patient happens to be are totally aligned.
On va pouvoir raconter un peu une histoire autour du projet de Côte Saint-Luc de façon à ce que cette histoire puisse se répéter.
Nobody should ever have nobody written at the top of their care map.
We're the perfect place to implement this technology to ensure safety and good health and connection with community through the Smart City Challenge. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully we will be trailblazers and we'll affect change across the country and around the world with technology that already exists, but by showing that municipalities can be leaders and can be the hub for this type of intervention for individuals and ensure that they have a connection with their family, with community, with the healthcare system, as if they're living in a three-generational home, even when they're not, because everybody's connected. So let's hope. And now we'll go to question period, and our first question is Tamar Hertz.
Good evening. I always get to go first.
There's only 2 questions today.
Okay. I'm here again regarding the City of Côte Saint-Luc's lack of municipal policy regarding clubs, particularly because of how slow and resistant the mayor and the Parks and Recreation Councillor have been to recognize the issues facing the city regarding an appropriate and updated municipal policy. It would be prudent at this time to seek an outside legal opinion on the matter, so the city and the clubs can move forward in a manner not so ruled by emotion or tainted by politics. The club's long-term use of the city logo and recent changes to the Côte Saint-Luc Men's Club rules are just 2 examples of why an outside legal opinion is required. We need to make sure that any club using municipal resources is done in a lawful manner and not based on a 30-year-old arrangement that has not been reviewed or updated. So my question is the council willing to get an independent legal opinion on the policies required for any clubs using municipal resources, and if any, make the appropriate adjustments?
First of all, the policy statement, because there were a few issues in your question. The policy document has been in the process of being made for a long time, and there will be an official policy document for all clubs. In terms of a legal opinion, we already have enough lawyers on staff that have given us opinion on what is believed to be very clear in terms of what an independent club is. So I think we have that information, and the policy document that's been created on clubs will incorporate that information. So I think those are the answers to those questions.
Well, I'm happy to hear that a policy document is being formulated. I'm surprised that with so many lawyers on staff and on council that we have found ourselves in this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Elkov.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here, I am a director of the Côte Saint-Luc Men's Club, which is partly why I'm here. I'd like to give you a little background about the Men's Club, which many of you already know. Many studies have documented that loneliness and isolation are among the greatest challenges that are faced by our senior men today. Often a couple depends on a woman to maintain the contact with family and friends, while the men are more focused on work and career. When the men retire from work or the partner dies, the men are very much socially isolated. Studies document that loneliness has the same impact on mortality as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, making it more dangerous than obesity and shortens lifespan by about typically 8 years. It is also clear that loneliness is closely linked to a number of health issues, including depression. Evidence also shows that men and women experience social isolation in different ways, and that men less likely to ask for support, and that men and women respond to their isolation in different ways, with men responding better to services that reflect long-standing interests and passions. It is within this structure that the men benefit from making their social connections and contacts. This is the situation that the Men's Club addresses. The raison d'etre of the Côte Saint-Luc Men's Club is to provide networking and camaraderie to our members in an all-male environment to combat this isolation and loneliness. We do have some trips, and we do have Tuesday evening events that are available to men and women. The social dynamics of a mixed group is very different from a male-only group. However, the core benefits that our club provides to our members are the programs and special interest groups that are designated for men only. Many of our groups do not even have speakers. What they do provide is the structure for male-only social interaction for our members. Our Thursday morning speakers are excellent, often educational and entertaining. However, that's not the reason that these programs are for members, men only. Our club has a higher calling than to provide educational and entertaining programs. This higher calling is to bring together men to socialize and provide camaraderie in an all-male environment and combat the isolation and loneliness previously mentioned.
You have 20 seconds to get to your question. It's a 3-minute.
All right. Basically, the value of the services that our club provides through our volunteer-run program, we have no paid staff, our value to the city well beyond the space that the city of Côte Saint-Luc allows us to use to provide these services. We're self-financing, we keep our costs low, having only volunteers, no paid staff, and we pass along this to our members. Within this context, it is very important to us and to the city that the club continues to maintain its independence from the city and continues to follow pursuit of its raison d'etre. Our decisions are made of our own system of executives and directors without any input from administration of the city of Côte Saint-Luc. And the city, the administration of the Men's Club and the city are presently working together to ensure that the club is clearly an independent organization, subject only to its own bylaws.
And the question.
My question is, Mr. Mayor, given the above, will paying an additional rent for the above service, in addition to the services that we already provide to the city, in terms of special events, keep us our independent status and allow us to act independently as recorded in our charter?
As I said to the last questioner, a policy is being drafted that will deal with all these issues, and once it's drafted, we'll make it public. But as I've stated previously, rent is paid in various ways, and often it's also services in kind, and a document was, and an explanation was presented and ideas by our communications director that gives further information on our associations and clubs that you can refer to on the Ideas Facebook page. Mickey Harar.
Hi, how are you? Good evening.
Welcome.
I enjoyed looking at the video before. Congratulations. The reason I'm here, I came to you a couple of years ago. I asked you some simple, straightforward questions about the tax-free status of homes in Côte Saint-Luc. And as you probably know, and that has, I'm a little bit embarrassed, in fact, to be here because now that has morphed into that there's a court case pending at the Access to Information Tribunal. So I'm just here in good faith to try to advance this process to get some answers instead of having to go through with a hearing. So that's the reason that I'm here. At the same time, obviously, you're aware we've gone to great lengths. You've even had to hire outside counsel to take care of to manage this issue for you. So that's why I'm here, just to try to advance it if it's possible. My question, the same question as before, is: are you aware? Is how many tax-free properties are there in Côte Saint-Luc?
I don't have the exact number in front of me. In terms of any legal case, I can't talk about that. But in terms of the exact number, we can get you that information. I don't have it in front of me, but it's certainly accessible.
Yeah, because my question is how many, and that's my sub-question is, that we've been asking over and over, is how many are owned by Rabbi Ben Oliel and his affiliated groups, and what is the zoning for those properties?
Rabbi Ben Oliel, to my knowledge, has 5.
Okay.
There are other rabbis that also have tax-exempt status, institutions that are either the home of the rabbi from a synagogue. Obviously, the synagogues are tax-exempt, the rabbis' homes are tax-exempt, and in the Banolio situation, they have other institutions that provide services to the community that also have received tax-exempt status from the province of Quebec. It's not the city of Côte Saint-Luc that gives that status.
No, I understand. One of those homes, there was a for rent sign on one of his properties for the month of January and February.
I hope that answers your question.
And the next part of the question is what is being done. I mean, you answered my question in my access to information case of how the zoning is. What is being done since these properties are zoned residential?
Under provincial law presently, the existing provincial law, even homes that are in residential zones are eligible for tax-exempt status if they meet certain criteria. So there are certain individuals that may not agree with that law, and I think it's important for you to speak to your member of the National Assembly and other representatives at the provincial level if you have a concern regarding that law, because it's a provincial law.
Now I know that there was a vote pending for an additional property for Rabbi Ben Oliel and his group. And his groups.
That's a different type of property. That would be the official synagogue.
Right, but that property would also have tax-exempt status.
Absolutely, all synagogues do in churches.
Okay, so how far will this go? You say he already owns 5, and now there's a plan for a 6th one. Is there a limit there, or is it
as long as the provincial law continues to be as it is, it could go to any amount. There's no limit. So until the law is changed at the provincial level, there is no limit. As long as the service provided in those dwellings meets the criteria of the provincial law, the dwelling gets tax-exempt status. That's the law. It's a provincial law. I'm not going to comment on whether I agree with it or not, but that is a provincial law.
But that's my question. Do you think it holds you just said it in your answer, that it holds that provincial status, that it holds, that it's doing the required use that you talked about? Because ultimately, the city's providing services to these properties that aren't paying taxes. Their garbage is being picked up, their snow is being cleared, and other services as well.
We don't draft provincial laws.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, we will go to, there's one more question. You need to fill out a paper.
I was a little late, sorry.
Okay. Well, I know your name, so you don't need the paper. Marissa Seidel.
Hi. Hope everyone's well. I'll make it quick. No surprise, I'm here today to ask the city what their official policy on social media is. As I think we've clearly seen in the last couple of days, in my opinion at least, and in the opinion of a few other people, the Côte Saint-Luc Ideas page has devolved into utter chaos. Myself and other people have been attacked, and some of the few quotes that we can look at just for the last 8 days alone was a disabled man that wasn't thrilled with the way his snow was cleaned, being told by 26 people that he should shovel his way out of his own house because the city's snow clearing policy was extraordinary and second to none. We had I don't know what the official title is, communications manager or what have you, closing certain threads by certain people before others on the same topic. One of the ones that I found particularly appalling this week was the comment by one of the members that I think it's with regards to Rabbi Ben Oliel's new property, something about him buying something on the municipal land, I'm not sure, next to Public Works. Sephardim are lying about their identity with regards to North Africa so that they could gain tax-free status and take this land to use at their own disposal. These are, yeah, I'm glad to give you the screenshot if you'd like it. Well, Ruth, Councillor Kovac, your reaction is fair because this is the legacy that your council is projecting to the 2,100 members and the other members that read this page on a daily, bi-weekly basis. Myself, now, I recognize that the invention or creation, whatever you want to call it, of Let's Chat contributed to the social media problem that the city has because in the race to compete against it, my opinion is that you put up a website or a Facebook page that you didn't have the human resources to manage. I thank Councillor Torjman and Councillor Seabag for personally reaching out to me on several occasions to tell me how appalled they were with some of the things that were said about me personally. Most recently today, where one of your members decided to attack my cafe, which is a business run in the mall, where all of you know that I've had several community events to benefit the community of Côte Saint-Luc, which I can assure you we will not be doing anymore. So the question is simply, as a council, your names are attached to every single one of the posts that happens on Ideas. Every time someone comments to a disabled man that he should shovel his own snow away, every time someone tells you that a Sephardi is lying about his heritage, every time someone puts a laughing emoticon or a haha emoji next to somebody that's being belashed, it's your council that's supporting it by not immediately intervening. Your city manager...
Your question.
I'm getting there. Your city manager sent me an email around the time that I was told that I wasn't allowed to share community events on the page, that I should report something to the admin if I found it to be offensive. Well, today I reported something to the admin that I found offensive, and he announced it to the entire Facebook page that I was reporting something that I found to be offensive. So the question is simple. You have a communications manager who's responsible for the portfolio. You have a mayor, you have a digital communications manager, and you have a council of 8 people. What's your social media policy?
Okay. So we are a relatively small city in the scheme of things, and in the last election, it was clear that there was a request for open government, and one of the things that people wanted were the ability to have a chat page. We're not going to be the ones to say that it's an easy thing to manage. Definitely not. And for the manager of communications, it's certainly not our core business, and we hope that he spends his time on a lot of other things as well. But it is one of his duties, and he does the best that he can. But obviously, there are chat pages, there's a lot of stuff on there that we don't like. You know, it happens, and it's tough to get it off, and I'm speaking now. So, and I'll be the first one to say that to you, Ms. Seidel, that I was personally offended. And I wrote you privately in an email.
I know.
When you said that I was yelling at council, and I took that as defamation of character. That's how I interpreted it. That's how I felt.
You shouldn't yell at people if you don't want to be told you're yelling.
We looked at all the footage. I don't yell. You can call this yelling now if you want.
No, but the 2 people who you wrote the email to in addition to me both gave you the examples of when you yelled at them.
I'm speaking now.
Right.
So 3 people posted that I yelled. Right. One was you, one was Tamar, and one was Mr. Rittman, one was, okay, and our director of communications independently never removed those comments.
Right.
If you go there today, they're still there. I personally consider them defamation of character.
Right.
But we are allowing him to run the site.
But I didn't elect him, I elected you.
That's not the point.
Right.
What I'm explaining is, as a council, we're trying to do this. I, as the mayor, and all these councillors cannot micromanage and do it ourselves. So the way we're doing it, to the best of our ability, is using the one staff person that we feel is most appropriate to manage it. Is he perfect? No.
I'm not saying he's not perfect.
Is he doing a fantastic job? I think he's doing a rather good one, considering the tough job it is to be an administrator of a chat page.
So your position, well, I know because I do it. And
I'm
I've done
sure
it.
you do know,
But
and you probably have a
you're-
lot more time to do it.
Not, yes and no. The thing is I take the responsibility that if I'm going to put my name behind something, like the city's put their name behind this, then I'm going to make sure that it's managed properly and that people aren't offended. So Sephardim are lying about their North African heritage to get tax-free property.
Anyway,
in
I
their
answered the
name.
question.
It's not something that I
But
would
I
allow.
answered the question.
Not really.
I did.
No, because I asked you what your policy as the mayor and the council who we elected, what's your policy, not Darrell's policy. You are the ones who set policy. Darrell doesn't set policy. And as great a job as he does monitoring the page, I believe that the city of Côte Saint-Luc didn't elect Darrell to set policy. You are responsible for setting policy. So I ask you again, sir, what is the city's policy, not Darrell's policy, with regards to social media and the way?
I don't have an
have-
I don't have
I
an
didn't think you
I don't
did.
have an answer to that.
I didn't think you did.
That's it, exactly. So if there's no further questions, we will move on to the next item of business, which is approval of the minutes.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Cohen. All in favor? All in favor of the approval of the minutes? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move on to business arising from the council minutes. And now the departmental reports, moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Kovac.
it's really a nice thing when staff takes an initiative to do things over the course of the last number of years. Whenever they've had an event, they do something called what's called a moitié-moitié. And what it means is they sell raffle tickets, and half the pot goes to the person that wins, and the other half goes to the Montreal Children's Hospital. And our staff, through their initiative, has raised $7,049, which has been given to the Montreal Children's Hospital, benefiting the Healthy Kids Fund. And one of the ladies that spearheads this at every event is Liz Hernandez, and we really should give her a shout out for the effort that she puts in. It's something they don't have to do, they want to do. And this was presented to the city from the Children's Hospital. So I wanted everyone to see this because sometimes it's nice to have good news and good things. And when people complain about our staff, look what they do in their spare time. So thank you very much to all the staff and to the initiative taken. Thank you.
Okay. Any other, Councillor Torgman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As is my mantra every month, I talk about how the library is much more than just books. We do have fantastic books, and it's a great library in the conventional sense. But one of the things we're offering this coming month is a volunteer tax clinic. So from March 18th to April 30th, the Côte Saint-Luc Public Library will be offering a volunteer-based tax clinic for CSL residents with modest incomes. We have teamed up with the NDG Tax Coalition for their support and expertise, along with the CRA and Revenue Quebec, to offer this library service to Côte Saint-Luc residents for the first time. Volunteers will be helping individuals who meet certain criteria prepare their income tax returns. You can access the website to get more details, but it's for people with a modest income, single income of $25,000 a year, or a couple with a combined income of $30,000 a year or less. And the space is limited. So please call 514-485-6900, extension 4107, or email reference@cotesaintluc.org to get more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Torgman. Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to let you know, on cold, snowy day. Actually, it's not so snowy today. It's more rainy, but we have set the date for our annual golf classic. It's July 4th, and there'll be more details to come. I'll be chairing it this year, co-chairing it with Councillor Erdely. We've already had our first meeting. It's fun to meet about golf in the winter time, and we'll recall that last summer we had to postpone the actual golf day because for the first time ever because of heat. And this summer will be our 40th annual. There's more details to come, some more surprises, but we'll hold on to those surprises for now. Secondly, I want to thank our management team, Jonathan Schechter, Charles Senecal and company, for doing a Herculean job in the last week regarding the Equinox project on Marc Chagall. Phase 2 is underway. The excavation has begun on the building, and they are going to complete that in the month of May. There has been significant problems with noise from their generator, which has been problematic for people, particularly living in the Rothschild 2, as well as some of the new residents of the Equinox. And thanks to the hard work of Maître Schechter and working with Hydro-Quebec, we've been able to ensure that there'll be a hookup of hydro instead of at the end of April, by the end of March. We're hoping that the temperature will not dip too much below zero in the next few weeks, and therefore the generator will not be necessary. And we've got a plan in place now where public security is going there every morning to check to make sure that construction is not starting too early. So we did well for the first phase. Unfortunately, the second phase is going to take about 1.5 years. So it's probably going to take till about June 2020. But we had a good meeting today, this afternoon at City Hall with senior management and members of the Equinox company team and some of the committee from the local condos, and we're moving in the right direction. So thanks to all.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few updates from the finance front. First, I wanted to share that again, for at least the 13th year in a row, we did not have to have a tax sale. I'm very happy to report. We had one final property that paid their taxes. These are the 2016 taxes on February 21st. So again, no tax sale, so I'm happy to report that. First installment of the current year of the 2019 taxes is due, or was due, on February 27th. The second installment is due on May 28th. Please make sure to pay taxes on time, and we recommend residents, if they're paying online, to try to pay a day or two in advance, just to make sure that it's processed by your local bank and that it gives time for the funds to be transferred to the city's bank. I want to give an update on the latest numbers for car shelters. So we're up to 115 shelters or tempos that have been purchased, or where permits have been requested since the beginning of this winter. And on a separate note, I want to say a thank you, and I don't see the director, but I think she's probably in the back, Director of Public Works. One thing that I've noticed, and hopefully residents throughout Côte Saint-Luc have noticed, is the city of Côte Saint-Luc took a lot of time over the last few weeks to break up the ice that was on the side of each road. If you drive through Montreal, at some point they figured the ice would melt and we could just leave it like that. Of course, we had a cold spell that went on for several weeks. The ice did not melt. It meant the roads were much narrower, it meant the roads were more dangerous. Côte Saint-Luc spent a huge amount of time, if you can imagine, going street by street with a grader and plows and blowers and so on to break up the ice that was several inches thick on each and every road. And because of that, the city is much safer for it. So I want to thank the director and the entire Public Works Department for their hard work with that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Councillor Bricu.
Oh, okay. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say that the mayor and I recently, oh, it's not on? Sorry. Hi. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say that the mayor and I recently met with the representatives of Canadian Pacific and the chairman of the executive committee of the City of Montreal, Doré. We met with them regarding the CP position with regard to Cavendish, and that position was then taken to the next level, where we met the following week with our neighboring cities of TMR and Hampstead,
and the boroughs of Côte-des-Neiges and Saint-Laurent with regard to the Cavendish extension as well, and the whole development of Namur de la Savane, what they call the Namur de la Savane sector, and basically committees being formed, which the mayor is going to sit, representing the city of Côte Saint-Luc, and we're going to be consulted with regard to the way in which the Cavendish extension is going to be developed. So we are making progress. At the same time, you will have heard in the media that the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Chantal Rouleau, and the Mayor of Montreal, Madame Plante, have mandated the creation of a task force with regard to all the traffic along the Décarie Expressway, more particularly as it relates to the 1540, to the project, to the Royal Mile project. And again, we are going to be consulted, but more than consulted, I think that now is a good time, and I haven't had a chance to flesh this out with the council, but the mayor and the city manager and director of engineering, we have discussed this, that we will be actually in parallel with this task force, conducting consultations with our residents so that our residents get a chance in a forum that is free and available to them in Côte Saint-Luc to discuss all these traffic issues. So it's crossing Décarie between Côte Saint-Luc Road and Vézina. That's one section which is extremely important. How do we cross Décarie, and how are we negotiating with our neighbors and with our all the different stakeholders, be it the STM or the buses and everything else? How are we going to cross Décarie? Then there's a second portion of it, which is all the mobility strategy for the Décarie corridor between Vézina and the 1540, Côte-de-Liesse. That's a whole other issue where, as many of you know, we would like to have a train station, we want to have faster access to the metro, and we want to actually involve the developers, not just Carbon Lyon, but all the developers should come around the table to discuss and to see what we can do in order to improve mobility along that corridor. And that plan has been in place since we first met with our neighboring cities in July of 2018, where many councillors here were in attendance. And the third part of it is to start having some discussion with regard to Cavendish, because I think the residents of Côte Saint-Luc have to understand, they have to have the flavor of where this is going and where this might lead in terms of the type of roadway that we're talking about. The City of Montreal wants a roadway that's very focused on all the modes of transport, so it's, buses and bicycling and everything else. But we also need a roadway for cars, obviously, but we also need one that is conducive and that is going to work well in our residential sector, because we don't want to impact it too much. So all these things we're going to be working on in terms of our mobility strategy, and over the next few months, in parallel with the task force, I think the City of Côte Saint-Luc is going to lead the way. With regard to our own residents, we want to hear from our residents. And there's going to be an opportunity, we're going to have a scheduled consultation sessions, and we're going to have an opportunity to really explain and to hear from our residents, because a lot of our residents have a lot of good ideas, and that's what I would like to push forward. So I took this opportunity. I didn't have a chance to flesh it out with my colleagues, but this has been in the works now since last July in terms of our mobility strategy. It's in all our sort of mission statements, and I think the timing is perfect now to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd just like to add that, the brief that we presented on the Royal Mount Commission that I know Councillor Burku and Councillor Sabag worked on with staff, and it was very detailed, and it gave a lot of good ideas on how to improve traffic around the Décarie corridor. And we have been working for a long time to try to get the representatives from CP Rail to sit down with Montreal in our presence. So this really was a big achievement where we had We had Tony Marcus from Marquis, who came in from Toronto, and from Ottawa, Nathan Cato, and Manon Gagnon. So they all came, and they met with us and with Mr. Doré, and we spoke frankly about how this is going to move forward. And the reality is, Montreal needs Cavendish Extension more than Côte Saint-Luc needs it. They need it for the Hippodrome, they need it for Royalmount, they need it for Midtown, they need it for Westbury, they need it for all the things that they're doing. So we want to be a part of the planning to ensure, as Councillor Burku said, that it's a roadway that serves all the projects, but also serves Côte Saint-Luc well. So we are making progress, and we are being included, and we have an excellent relationship with CP Rail, who seem to be ready to also accommodate some of the concerns that Montreal had. And I'm waiting for an announcement from Eric Caldwell, who's in charge of urban planning. He says he will be sending us an official statement and invitation on the progress on Cavendish Extension very shortly. And anyone else who has, Councillor Benizri.
Thank you. Just wanted to mention also, I know that Stephen said it already, just to thank our Public Works Department. I just want to mention that we had pancake breakfast last week in appreciation, to our team of Public Works. It was a way just to thank them and to tell them that we appreciate all the work they're doing, for our residents in Côte Saint-Luc. So I just wanted to,
yes, they did a great
to
job.
mention it.
And that was a wonderful initiative by the management.
Absolutely.
Anybody else with the departmental reports? So moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move to item 6, Eleanor London, Côte Saint-Luc Public Library. Councillor Torgman.
This is just a table.
I don't know if it's necessary to do it at this point. I just want to add an item to the agenda. Mr. Schechter, should I do it at this moment, to add an item to the agenda? Or is it too late? Or, because we didn't really adopt the agenda. So
We didn't adopt an agenda.
no.
You can do it under Varia.
Pardon?
Under other business.
You can add it under Varia.
Everyone's got an opinion. Okay. Yes, Mr. Schechter.
If you would like to add an item to the agenda,
Yeah.
you're most welcome to do it presently.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to do it presently. Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'd like to add the the following item, awarding of a contract for the rehabilitation of the arena.
And that
Okay?
will be done under other business.
Under other business. Thank you.
Item 15.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And now we will move on to Councillor Torgman. Continue.
So
Item
it's-
6.
This is a,
6A.
it's a notice of motion for the tabling of the
Fee schedule.
the fee schedule for the Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc Public Library.
Thank you, Councillor Torgman. And that's all. Right, and a
Thank you,
tabling of the draft bylaw. Thank you. Item 7A, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Would you like the paper copy?
No. Sorry. Hold on one second. Be it resolved that bylaw 2528-1, entitled Bylaw 2528-1, amending Bylaw 2528 concerning taxes and tariffs of the City of Côte Saint-Luc for the fiscal year 2019 be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any
So,
discussion?
Just to explain briefly, so this has to do with the tax rate for non-residential properties that are valuated at over $45 million. What happened when this was originally adopted, there was a typo or an error in the tax rate, so this is to correct an error that was made at the time of the original adoption in December.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to item 7B, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves of the payment of capital in the amount of $503,300 from the Côte Saint-Luc General Fund 2018 operating budget regarding bond issue number 85, original financing number 12, and that Treasurer Certificate number 18-0204, dated March 1st, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Early, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion?
So I'll explain this one. So as you may know, the City of Côte Saint-Luc does capital projects, and every year we borrow some money. So this has to do with bond number 85, where the money was borrowed back in December of 2013. There's $503,300 and $300, sorry, $503,300 left on this bond. What we've also tried to do over the last few years is to lower our total debt or long-term debt. We've done that. If you look at the year since 2011, we were at our peak of $64 million in long-term debt, and as of last year, we were at just under $53 million. So we reduced about $11 million from the long-term debt over the last 7 years. With this, we were going to reduce it by another $500,000. Of course, every year we do have to borrow more money, but the goal is to try to bring down that total number. So this was something we decided to do based on the fact that Côte Saint-Luc is going to have a small surplus for the end of 2018. We don't have the final numbers. We're waiting for the auditors who will be coming in the month of April. The audit usually takes a few weeks, so we'll know by May, June what the final number is, but there's enough to cover this $503,000 bond payment without having to refinance, and overall we'll save on interest costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Seconded by Councillor Burku. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now, Maitre Schechter, item 7C.
7C and 7D I can do.
Thank you.
Sure. So I want to confirm that the City Treasurer, Mr. Angelo Marino, has tabled 2 documents before the Côte Saint-Luc City Council tonight. The first document is a list of reimbursements of councillors' research and support expenses for 2018. And the second document is the Treasurer's report concerning the election activity for the 2018 fiscal year entitled Rapport d'activité du trésorier au conseil municipal du 1er janvier 2018 jusqu'au 31 décembre 2018.
Thank you, Maitre Schechter. And now we move on to item E.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor, go ahead.
Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of February 1st, 2019 to February 28th, 2019 for a total amount of $4,436,060.23 in Canadian funds, and that Treasurer's Certificate number 19-0057, dated March 4th, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Early, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion?
So just to mention the 2 largest items in the disbursements for the month of February were salt and for snow. As mentioned earlier, we've had a lot of ice on the road, partly because of the freezing and thawing cycles. And so this year, based on looks, it's going to be one of our largest years for salt purchases, if not the largest so far. Thank you.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So everyone was in favor? We got that? Okay. Carried unanimously, and we move on to item 8A. Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of the white-collar auxiliary employees whose names are listed on the document entitled Auxiliary Employees White-Collar Hiring, dated March the 1st, 2019, and that said employees' terms of employment will be as per the conditions of the collective agreement, and that Treasurer Certificate number 19-0059, dated March the 5th, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses. And what we're doing here is hiring our senior and junior camp counselors for the summer of 2019.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac. Seconded by Councillor Ben-Isri. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And we move on to item 9, legal services. Maitre Schechter, 9A.
So I would like to table a list of miscellaneous receivables that were settled between December 2018 and January 2019. Without listing them, the overall general reason for these receivables were damages to city property. So we pursued very actively and aggressively the insurance companies of those motorists, for the great part, who hit lampposts and other city property. And so of the $91,371.91 that we claimed, we settled for $88,287.15.
Bravo to your department.
Okay, and item 9B, Councillor Cohen.
Mr. Mayor, I so move that Councillor Orange Sabag is and shall be named acting mayor of the city of Côte Saint-Luc effective April 1st, 2019, up to and until June 30th, 2019 inclusively, and further that the aforementioned Councillor Sabag shall have and may exercise the powers of the mayor when the said mayor is absent or unable to perform the duties of his office.
Moved by Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Benizri. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move on to item 9C. 9C is Councillor Burku.
Whereas on December 1st, 2017, François Maréchal and Marie-Thérèse Rumeb filed a lawsuit against City Côte Saint-Luc and Desjardins Insurance for $36,094.89. Be it resolved that the preamble of this resolution shall form an integral part thereof, and the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby authorizes the city to settle a lawsuit for an amount of $3,750 inclusive and applicable taxes, capital, interest, and costs, contingent upon co-defendant Desjardins contributing $6,250, thus for a combined total of $10,000, called the settlement. That the aforementioned settlement shall be further contingent upon the signature of a quittance whose wording shall be at the satisfaction of the Director of Legal Services or the city's General Counsel, and that the Director of Legal Services or the city's General Counsel be and here shall hereby be authorized to sign any document to give effect to the aforedescribed settlement. That Treasurer's certificate dated March 6, 2016 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. Any, seconded by Councillor Cohen, I believe. Thank you. Any discussion?
Well, this is basically to settle the claim of this resident, with, which, as was stated previously, was over $36,000. And so we're paying our share of $3,700, and the Desjardins Insurance is going to pay the balance up to a total of $10,000 for litigation related to a sewer pipe which caused some damage.
Correct.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. We move on to number D. Councillor Early. 9D.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby joins the that the City of Côte Saint-Luc hereby joins the UMQ group tender and mandates them for the purpose of awarding a contract for insurance products for cybersecurity risks for the period between July 1st, 2019 and July 1st, 2024. Be it further resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc authorizes the mayor or the city clerk to sign for and in the name of the City of Côte Saint-Luc the agreement entitled Entente de regroupement des municipalités du Québec relativement à l'achat en commun de produits d'assurance pour les cyber-risques, submitted and attached herewith, forming an integral part hereof as if it were recited in its entirety. And in accordance with the law, a municipality accepts that a municipality that presently doesn't participate in the group tender may ask during a contract by resolution its adhesion to the present group tender, subject to the UMQ's approval, and that the municipality that wishes to join the group tender undertakes to respect each and every one of the conditions provided by the contract documents with the expenses required by the UMQ and the insurance contract and the consultant's mandates, the whole awarded accordingly. And this junction should not be made if it distorts the principal elements of the call of tender process, the contract, or the mandate in question.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
So if I may explain, so this is something we're doing for the first time. The City of Côte Saint-Luc has regularly joined with the UMQ or the City of Montreal for other insurance or for common group tenders. So this is the first time we're doing it for insurance for cybersecurity, but it's something that is becoming more of a reality, not just for cities, but for organizations, for companies, and for other government organizations and non-governmental organizations. It involves insurance for several things, including breach of confidentiality, cyber extortion, or interruption of service. Obviously, we hope never to have to deal with these issues, and the city has over the years put in measures to avoid this. At the same time, we think it's a good idea to join with the UMQ in this group insurance tender.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move on to item 10A, which is Councillor Cohen.
I so move that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council authorizes the payment of invoices to Canada Post for the 2019 year, that the council approves the associated expense in the amount of $35,000 plus applicable taxes, that Treasurer's Certificate Number TC 190044, dated February 14, 2019, has been issued by the Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried. And we move on to item 11, which is deferred. Item 12, Councillor Burke.
Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc has presented the project entitled Replacement of Samuel Moscovitch Arena's Refrigeration System to the Ministère de l'Éducation et de l'Enseignement supérieur in the context of the Programme de soutien pour le remplacement ou la modification des systèmes de réfrigération fonctionnant au gaz R12 ou R22, arena et centre de curling, which aims to reduce and eliminate ozone-depleting substances by the year 2020 as related to the refrigeration of the arena. Whereas the ministry requires that the city adopt a resolution designating a signatory for the grant agreement, be it resolved that City of Côte Saint-Luc hereby designates Mr. Charles Senecal, Director of the Urban Development Department, as the person authorized to act in its name and to sign the grant agreement to be concluded with the Ministère de l'Éducation et de l'Enseignement supérieur in its name, as well as all documents related to the project entitled Replacement of Samuel Moscovitch Arena's Refrigeration System.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
No, well, this just relates to an item which we're going to discuss further at the end of the meeting
15, yeah.
with regard to the refrigeration of the arena. So we're just designating Mr. Senecal to sign the agreement with the ministry.
With the grant. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And now we move on to item 13, urban developments. That's Councillor Burku.
Excuse me, do you have the screen ready? No, I mean, thank you. Give this to her. I thought working on paper would be more efficient. What's going on?
Okay. So, the first item on the agenda is Alpine, 5552 Alpine. Be it resolved that site planning and architectural integration program received January 17, 2019, showing modifications in the addition of an extension to an existing single-family dwelling on lot 2090-153 at 5552 Alpine, prepared by Planimage Architecture and design firm architecture and design firm for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of February 26, 2019 be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. So basically, this is to allow a existing floor of more than 1,300 square feet to have one-car garage. Because the floor area is going to be increased, we are approving this plan, and then we're going to approve the minor exemption.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Then we move to B.
So I'll go on
Here's
here.
B.
Okay, never mind, we'll do this.
It's right there.
All right. It's not doing it on paper. 3 or 4. Okay, I think that's better. 4. Next time, I'm going to practice. Okay, so this is with regard to 8262 Mackle, 8267 Mackle. Be it resolved that the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program received January 11, 2019, showing the construction of a new single-family detached dwelling at 8267 Mackle. This is all the way at the end of Mackle, past Blossom, and prepared by Missile Design, architect for the Planning Advisory Committee, meeting of January 22, 2019, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. Again, this is a new construction, and we felt that it fit in right with the neighborhood. It is the last property at the end of the street and is very much in harmony with the other properties and other buildings that are in the immediate vicinity.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kovac. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move to minor exemptions, 13.2A.
Okay, so which item is it? Is that next one? 13.2A, just a second. Okay, 21. All right, so as I mentioned before, for 5552 Alpine, because of the extension, because of the increase in the property, we're now going to go to a minor exemption for their parking space. So in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5552 Alpine, be and is hereby approved, the whole is more amply delineated hereunder. The request is in order to allow an existing detached split-level, single-family dwelling, the construction of a 2-story addition without having to provide a 2-car garage, 1-car garage existing, when the dwelling area is more than 1,800 square feet, excluding the area of the garage and basement floor. The whole in accordance with the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217, Article 7-2-1A.
Thank you, Councillor Burku.
So I think that's self-explanatory. We're allowing them to increase the building and not add an extra garage space.
Seconded by Councillor Kovac. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move on to B, minor exemptions. Trinity.
So I'm on 13.1B. Now, be it resolved, the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program received January 11, 2019, showing the construction of a new single-family detached dwelling. Oh, no, I'm at Mackle.
You're on Trinity now.
Sorry. Okay. Okay, apologize for that. Okay. Be it resolved in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5765 Trinity. Be and is hereby approved, the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is in order to allow for an existing detached single-family dwelling built in 1962 under permit number 1680 to be located at 6.2 23 feet from the southeast side land line instead of the minimum required side setback of 6.5 feet, the whole in accordance with the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217 Annex B. So this is truly a minor exemption. We're just allowing them to deviate from the side setback by less than half a foot.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kovac. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried, and we move to C.
Correct.
C 846, Kildare.
I got it. Okay. We'll just shake it up, we'll do it in French. Conformément aux dispositions du règlement J18-005, qu'une demande de dérogation mineure concernant une propriété localisée au 6846 Kildare soit et par les présentes approuvée, le tout tel que plus amplement écrit ci-dessous. La demande vise à permettre pour une habitation unifamiliale détachée existante d'avoir un balcon arrière en béton construit en 2009 avec le permis numéro 1426 d'être localisé à 6,26 pieds de la ligne de terrain côté nord-est au lieu de la marge de recul latérale minimum requise de 6,5 pieds et de 6,46 pieds de la ligne de terrain côté sud-ouest au lieu de la marge de recul latérale minimum requise de 6,5 pieds, le tout nonobstant les dispositions du règlement 2217, article 4-4-5A. So this again is a minor exemption whereby we are allowing a derogation of less than few inches. It's about 1 inch in one case and 3 inches in the other. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kovac. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried, and we move to item 14, stances. Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the council takes the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meetings to be held in April 2019 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meetings to be held in April 2019 based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Cohen. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move on to the item that was added to the agenda, item 15, which is about the arena. Councillor Burku.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have some extra copies here, so I don't know if you want to see it. Okay, thank you. So whereas on February 7, 2018, City of Côte Saint-Luc made a public call for tenders for professional services regarding the rehabilitation of the arena base option, and as an option, the refrigeration of the Confederation Annex Option 1 under tender C-12-18C, and received 2 conforming bids. Whereas Tremco Construction is respectively the lowest conforming bidder both for the base option in addition to option A. Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc considers it appropriate to award the base option immediately, whereas City Council wishes to defer its decision regarding option 1 to another date, whereas this decision will have no impact on the lowest conforming bidder, whereas the prices tendered are wholly guaranteed under the expiration of 90 days following the opening of the tender and for all the foreseen option periods. Be it resolved that City Council hereby awards the base contract to Tremco Construction, Inc., the lowest conforming bidder under the law pursuant to the terms of tender C-12-18C for a total amount of $6,569,541 plus applicable taxes. That the City Council reserves its right pursuant to the terms of tender C-12-18C to defer its decision regarding option 1 in relation to the Confederation Annex to another date whereby the prices tendered are wholly guaranteed until the expiration of the 90 days following the opening of the tender and for all the foreseen option periods. That furthermore, the city may consider an amount of 10% plus applicable taxes for any potential contingencies and extras, if required, that shall be first be approved according to the city's procedure. That $3.5 million of the described expenses shall be financed from loan bylaw 2505, previously approved on May 4th, 2018 by the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and that $1 million of the described expenses shall be subject to the approval of financing from the MEES grant, which is the Ministry of Education, which I mentioned previously when we were talking about the designation of Mr. Senecal, and that 1.8 million of the amount of the described expense shall be covered from the cumulative surplus, and that the remaining $100,000 of the described expenses shall be covered by the working fund as previously approved in December 2018. That the issuance of a treasurer's certificate by the city treasurer to attest the availability of funds to cover the described expenses will be issued as soon as practically possible. And we will explain all this in a moment. I just need a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Kovac.
Okay.
Go ahead, explain.
All right. So I'm going to try my best, but I know there's other councillors who can do even better. So basically, this is a contract for the, we need to upgrade the refrigeration of the arena according to the legal requirements. It has to be done by 2020. There are many reasons that led us to this timing. We were waiting for some government grants. We were waiting for some subsidies to come from the provincial government. In any event, we are here now. We went to tender. We asked for 2 separate bids, one for the arena and one to see if we could do also refrigeration in the annex, because there's been many demands to have a new ice surface in the annex. We've reserved our decision on the annex because it's quite an expense at this point, $6.5 million, as you can well imagine. So we're going forward with the $6.5 million, and over the next 60 days, we're going to review our options, see what other tenders are going to come in, because we have other tenders out there for major infrastructure projects, and then we're going to make a decision as to whether or not we go forward with the annex. But right now, because of the timing and because we have already advised all our associations and all our groups that are using the rinks that they will not be able to use the ice surface over the next season, we need to start the work as soon as possible. And so we're going to give the contract now and start the work as soon as we can.
Thank you. You explained it perfectly well.
Thank you.
Councillor Burku, any other discussion?
Anyone want to add anything?
No.
Go ahead, Stephen.
It's fine.
I'm sure he has something to
Stephen likes it, he knows a lot about arenas.
Well, I was just going to say 2 things. First, this is something we need to do for environmental reasons as well.
Because of the ozone.
The coolant system that had been in use probably for 50 years or so, obviously at the time was considered environmentally friendly. At this point is not. So with this new refrigeration system, it'll be much more environmentally friendly, and that's one of the goals for the city. The other thing, just to reiterate, is that we have 90 days. We're still in the process of considering the annex, whether to continue with that, and we'll make that decision very soon.
If there's no further discussion, moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? So that is carried. Other business, that was the only other business. So we move to second question period. Any other questions? So move for adjournment.
So moved, Mr.
Moved by
Mayor.
Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Torgman. All in favor of adjournment? We're adjourned. Thank you.